Good morning and welcome to a very sobering episode of Plugged In from YAA Electric. My name is Justin Fisher, and today I'm joined by the lovely Justice from the YAA community. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well today. Doing well. We got some good news coming up. So, that's always a good day.
Yeah. Some
Maybe
good news.
maybe not your news, but
Good news and some bad news. I'll start with the bad news, shall we? So today I'm a bit frustrated, okay? Because I've been using Electrify America's network more often lately as I've been taking some regional trips. And I've been experiencing what appears to be a pretty rapid uh, downfall for the network. I mean, I was wondering, is it just in my region? But today I started doing some research and looking at Electrify America's own website and pulling up their charger availability. And I was honestly shocked and disappointed at what I saw with charging network availability. So we're going to kick it off there today. I'll start by sharing my own personal anecdotal experience just last night. I live in West Virginia and I often cross the border over to Virginia. Virginia has like about 15 Electrify America stations. And the one that I frequent most, it's had its problems, but usually one out of the four stations is down. That's still not good, but it was nothing for me to, make a whole live YouTube show about. However, what happened yesterday was a whole other deal. It was worse. Okay, so I pulled up to this Electrify America station in my Hyundai Ioniq 5. It's got four stalls, and on the app, it says one out of the four isn't working. Sounds about right for that station. It's still disappointing, but I wasn't upset. And I see a Mustang Mach E owner going back and forth between the different stalls as I pull in, and I greet him. I say, "Hello, how are you?" And he was pretty pissed because it turns out that even though on the Electrify America app it said that just one station was unavailable, it turns out that three were malfunctioning. And we had to do some tests. Like, is this his car? Is it the Mustang Mach E? I mean, I've got an Ionic 5, completely different infrastructure. I would think that it would communicate with the charger differently, right? So I then tried the same stations with my car. We were getting the same errors. It would not work. Now, here's why this frustrated me so much, because it was not labeled, it was not flagged on the Electrify America app. You could have people going down the interstate on, I don't know, 5% state of charge, pulling up to the only non Tesla DC fast charger for 50 miles in any direction. And they're going to find that they've got one charging stall available and there's a line for it because there's only one, right? It's a mess. So that's anecdotal evidence. But Justice, I've seen on the internet, on the lovely interwebs, you know, it's just a problem that is accelerating nationwide as EV adoption increases, which, we want EV adoption. More people are using these chargers, but they're not being maintained and fixed quick enough. And this is specifically a problem I've dealt with on the Electrify America network. And now that I've done my research this morning and looked at charger availability nationwide, this is not unique to my region. This is something that is happening everywhere. I'll get into the numbers here in a minute, but I want to hear what's your take as a Tesla driver and as someone who's on the West Coast where EV charging is everywhere. What are your first thoughts about what I've shared with you this morning?
my first thoughts on that is uh, imagine if Tesla had these same problems and from the beginning, like Electrify America, we'd all be collectively saying, well, EV's not viable yet. It's just not
Yes.
there. It can't be there. Like, luckily we have Tesla who sort of showed the way that it can be done. Because otherwise, if this was the standard, there would be no mass adoption coming because it just wouldn't be there. This is a real kick in the gut to EV adoption. And I think a legitimate concern for a lot of people when we talk about infrastructure being the number one obstacle. Okay, we're going to install all these chargers everywhere throughout the nation, but are they going to be like the Tesla network? Are they going to be Electrify America, which would make it a lot of money spent for nothing?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Imagine all the news coverage about Tesla if this is how the supercharger network was functioning.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I thought about having another title for this video. Uh, I need Elon Musk to come save me, come bail me out because I need the supercharger network, especially in my region where charging infrastructure is poor. We have plenty of Tesla superchargers, even in the mountains and hollers of West Virginia. But non-Tesla charging options are very, very slim, almost zero. So,
Well, lucky for
yeah,
you, it's coming because the app has an option now for non-Tesla owners. So I'm not sure
yeah.
if it's fully activated yet, but it's coming. So
It's
that's
not
good
f
for
it's not
you.
fully activated yet. I will be jumping for joy. This will be breaking news at YAA as soon as as soon as the Tesla Supercharger network becomes available here in the United States to non-Tesla drivers. I still think that Elon Musk is gonna charge us non-Tesla owners 69 cents a kilowatt hour because that's how he does things, but
Yeah.
I would not complain. I would still use Electrify America when I have enough charge to not be worrying about whether or not this is gonna work. But and I still have, I have a 2-year free charging incentive with the Ionic 5. A lot of other EVs out there have some kind of free charging incentive. And Kyle Connor over at Out of Spec Motoring, he and a few others, the Inside EVs group, love their weekly show. It's every Friday live in the morning. Um, they were saying that this could be a side effect of too many automakers offering free charging incentives for the Electrify America network. But because you've got more and more usage, yeah, no, I've got some pushback, and I think you and I are
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. We're
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. Um, these networks are still barely used at all compared to where they're gonna be in 2024, 2025. So if that's our excuse that this could be a side effect of the chargers being used too much, being abused by all of these free charging incentives, we're royally screwed when it comes to 2024, 2025, when EV adoption is expected to be over 15% market share in the United States for new vehicle sales. We're going to be in a very bad situation if the charging networks cannot even handle 5.6% EV market share. It's just wild. So what do we do about it, Justice? I've got my thoughts. I want to hear yours, and then I'll finally share those numbers I crunched this morning with charger reliability or unreliability.
Well, not to get too political, but the White House needs to stop pushing Tesla to the side and use their intelligence and experience into creating a better grid and charging system. We have one automaker who's already shown it can be done. It can be done extremely well and extremely efficient. So instead of pushing them aside, we need to get their opinions and have them help because it seems that the alternatives just aren't there yet. They just haven't quite figured it out.
Yeah, the latest bipartisan infrastructure law that included $7.5 billion for the states to build out a national charging network. I'm getting pretty anxious about that. They better not build a bunch of unreliable Electrify America style chargers that, only 2 out of 4 are going to be working at any given time. That I really hope that does not happen, but I'm getting anxious about it. The good news is I can see that they've built in some safety nets and some protocols that give me a bit of hope. Okay. So, for example, these publicly funded fast chargers that are going in around the nation, states are coordinating the effort and soliciting bids right now to get them installed. The first installations will go in 2023, so I'm looking forward to that. But these installations are going to be required to be a part of the Open Charge Point Protocol, OCPP as it's called, which allows for interoperability, meaning that you shouldn't have to have a bunch of different apps on your phone to log into before you start charging, right? And it should be easier to maintain if they're going to be built on similar platforms with similar protocols in the engineering, both on the back end and the front end. So I have some hope, but I am nervous that we're going to end up with a national charging network that has poor reliability. That would be tragic. Now, let's be real about it. What's probably going to happen? I think this is going to be a strength for Tesla. I think Tesla is going to end up making money off of us non-Tesla owners by charging us whatever they deem necessary to do so. to charge at their stations, and then they're going to use that to continue to grow their network. And it's going to
Yeah.
be, charge Tesla's going to dominate EV charging in America, and that would be a good thing in my opinion.
Well, even without that, they're planning on doubling their chargers worldwide. So that's a start. And then you throw that money that they will most definitely charge non-Tesla owners. Um, and they can scale very quickly. They know what they're doing. They have it down. And maybe we get a lot of V4 chargers out there.
Yeah. Yeah, V4, that would be awesome. So V4 is, according to the leaked blueprint documents, that's going to be the one that allows the rest of us to join the network if we have an adapter, sounds like.
Yep.
Or maybe they'll include a CCS plug at the stations. Not
I
sure.
would
What do
love
you think?
them to just tie a converter on, an adapter onto the plug. I think that
Yes,
would be fantastic.
that would be wonderful. So here I have pulled up a map from electrifyamerica.com. Don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of Electrify America's vision and what they've already done to grow out charging in America. It's just they're at a critical juncture in their company's story, because they need to get on top of what we're seeing in the network right now. These are the existing Electrify America stations in the eastern United States. The gray ones are under construction or coming soon. I live right here. I live very close. But yeah, I know, right? This is
There's
the
a really big bald spot there.
Yes, there are several level 2 chargers all over the place, but I can't really go north without driving slowly to make sure I could make it to this charger up here if I wanted to go north. Luckily, I don't want to. But yeah, I live very close to this Electrify America station just across the border in Virginia. This is where I had the very poor experience where 3 out of 4 charging stations were out of order. Only 1 out of those 4 was listed as unavailable on the Electrify America app, and that really freaked me out. I was spending time with the gentleman in the Mustang Mach E who was headed long distance on his way up I-81 towards the DC corridor. He had 80 miles of range on his car, and the chargers weren't working, so he had to wait it out. This is just not a good situation. So now that I show you where I collected this data from, here's how I threw it together this morning. I pulled up every station in Virginia and looked at the listed charger availability. Now, here's why this matters right here. On the Electrify America app, they differentiate between in use and unavailable. In use means someone's plugged in and charging, unavailable means it's broken. Okay. Now, this is useful information to be able to figure out exactly how many DC fast chargers are available in any given area. Doesn't matter a ton right now with EV adoption rates being relatively low, 5.6%, but this will matter immensely just a few years from now when EV adoption accelerates, right? Assuming it does. These are the broken chargers in all of Virginia. Now, here's what I must note before I quickly go through this. Virginia is the home state for Electrify America. Their headquarters is in Reston, Virginia. This is where they're based, okay? This is what we're seeing in their home state. Wytheville, Virginia. On their app, it says 1 out of 4 is broken, but as of 9 p.m. last night, it was really 3 out of 4. So for the rest of this, take it with a grain of salt. It could be worse than it appears. You've got several stations where 1 or 2 out of 4 charging stalls are broken. They're listed as unavailable. You've also got several where none of them are broken, and that's great, right? But what if you get really unlucky and you pull up to the beach at Newport News, Virginia? It's a beautiful beach, and half of the chargers were listed as unavailable, not in use, unavailable because they're broken. Okay, that would be tragic. Imagine being in a Kia EV6 like the kind lady I met at an Electrify America station recently. You're pulling in on like 2% state of charge because honestly, she should have planned better, but mistakes were made. She's pulling in. She's glad she's at the Electrify America charging station. She pulls in and only half the charging stalls are working. The other half are used. Maybe there's a small line to use those. This is a mess. Okay. Now I wondered, well, this is just Virginia, right? So, Justice, does this look as bad as I'm making it sound? These are the stalls that are malfunctioning at each station.
Well, first, all I can see is your map still. So if you switch the screen, it didn't update.
Oof. Thanks for
Yeah.
pointing that out. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll fix
Um,
that. I'll fix that, and then I'm gonna have you critique what I have compiled here. Yeah. Should have interrupted me, Justice, but it's okay.
sorry,
Uh,
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you had switched from the map. You were
no,
doing such a good job explaining it.
can we see
I
it
was
now?
just going with yeah. Now I
Okay.
see.
Now everyone can see the lovely data I collected just an hour ago. This shows how many chargers are broken at each Electrify America location in the state of Virginia. Last night, went here. In reality, 3 out of 4 were malfunctioning, not just for my car, for other cars too. Now that you can see this data, yeah, there's several stations where none of them are malfunctioning, but you've also got several stations where 50% of them are actually broken. I would say the average looks like 1 out of 4 is malfunctioning.
Yeah,
1 out of
it
4
looks like a
malfunctioning. What's that?
quarter of them. It looks like a quarter of them don't work. I mean,
Yeah, on
that's
average. And here's the rest of the Virginia data. They've got a lot of stations. Um, I would say on average, just quickly looking at it, 1 out of 4 doesn't work. That's on average. That is not a big deal right now, but it's going to be a bigger deal when more people buy electric vehicles. And with the latest EV incentives, I think more people will be buying EVs. And not to mention, there's also talking about it in averages is only so relevant here. It's not very relevant because how much does that average matter if you happen to be the unlucky one to pull into the Germantown, Virginia station where only 1 out of the 4 stalls is working? There might be a line of 5 cars trying to plug. Maybe 3 out of those 5 cars are Chevy Bolts or Kia e-Niros that take 45 or 50 minutes to charge. What are you going to do? Like sit there for 2 hours and wait for your turn?
what.
I'm frustrated, Justice.
And this is just the beginning. If 25% of them are down now, I can't think of another industry where you go, well, 75% of it works, so we're good. Like
Yes.
that's insane.
Yeah. Um Fix my typo there. Yeah, so in the home state of Electrify America, Virginia, 23 out of 124 charging stalls are out of order. That's an 81% uptime right now. Is that the worst thing in the world? No, but we just talked about how it's not like 1 out of 4 stations at every station is malfunctioning. Some stations are far worse than others, and some stations are working perfectly fine. So this is just not acceptable. It's not a good way for EV adoption to be um, promoted right now. It's not a good time to be charging an EV unless you have a Tesla. So I wondered, what about the other side of the country? This is Nebraska, the very important. It's important for our economy. I-80 corridor that goes across the whole state of Nebraska, bringing goods from the West Coast to the East Coast and vice versa. These are all of the stations in the state of Nebraska. These are the ones malfunctioning. Oglala, Nebraska. You're very far from anywhere. 3 out of the 4 stations are unavailable. Not in use, unavailable. North Platte, Nebraska, half of them aren't working. You got a good station in Lexington, but you can see the trend here. More than likely, if you pull into Electrify America station anywhere in the country, something's going to be wrong at least a few of the stalls. Not a huge problem now, but with these new EV incentives, if we've got more people buying Chevy Bolts, because they're affordable, right? Maybe Nissan Leafs, Kia e-Niro, any affordable EVs that tend to have slower charging speeds and longer charge times, they're going to become more popular with these new EV incentives. They're going to be filling up these stations, and with a charging time of anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, some cases up to an hour and a half. This is a recipe for disaster. That's where I'm at right now. The future's looking scary.
Yeah.
Did I bore you to death?
No, not at all. But you do seem frozen to me. I don't know if you're frozen to everybody else, but
Yeah,
you were
actually,
frozen.
I look frozen. I'll fix that
Okay.
somehow.
Okay.
But you
I
can
can
hear
hear
me at
you
least?
just fine. I can hear you just fine, and your information is coming across loud
I
and clear.
broke the internet, you guys. I broke the internet. Yeah. Here, I'll be back in 10 seconds.
At least he froze in a really good position. I get frozen in weird, awkward positions. So uh, that was crazy, though. 25%. Can you imagine that in any other industry? 25% of your product doesn't work. I mean, we say no big deal now, but it seems like the most popular ones are the ones that are down. So I think that's insane. The Tesla network has been out for a long time and shows people how it can be done. We need good, high-powered, non-Tesla charging stations out there to make this work. Um, it's crazy to me. Let's go to the chat while we are waiting for Justin. Oh, there he is. He's back.
I switched cameras. Haha,
Yeah, I can see
I got
it.
so many tricks up these sleeves. Yeah,
Now we
change
can
cameras.
all look up to you literally.
Yeah. Yes, up here in the talking about EVs, talking down to you all. I'm so sorry. I'll try to fix that. But anyways, yeah, we were just venting, okay? We were just venting about EV charging infrastructure. Man, like someone in the
I know.
chat learning
I agree
faster.
with you. Oh, oh, no, that I figured we needed more cowbell.
Yeah, if you
So
guys are listening on the podcast, can't quite tell if it's a cowbell or a cheese grater on the green screen behind Justice, but that gave me a good laugh learning fast. Thank you so much. Yeah. I also wanted to bring up the JD Power study that recently came out just 2 weeks ago about EV charging reliability in America. It showed that according to their surveys of EV owners, reliability approval has gone down. I'm sorry, EV charging approval rates have gone down over the past year. This is at a time where EV drivers should be having an easier time finding the charging they need, but according to JD Power, it's actually getting worse. And they according to their rankings, they found that out of a scale of 0 to 1,000, Tesla scored 744. I'm sorry, 739 on a scale of 1,000. However, I've got some bones to pick with the way they did their methodology, and shall I go into that briefly?
yeah, I would like to know because I'm always skeptical of the media and Tesla.
Yeah. So JD Power study where they basically showed Electrify America, ChargePoint, Blink, a few other networks being not that much worse than Tesla with the way they did their study. Here's what you need to know, and here's why I'm skeptical of their results. These overall scores on the 1,000 point scale are based on 10 factors. Only one of the 10 factors is charger reliability. That's a red flag right there, right, Justice?
Yeah, if that's what you're looking at, and it's only one of 10 factors, that seems
I mean,
odd.
well, for example, what are some other factors they included? Um, Things to do while charging. That's important, but it's also going to lead to misleading results, right? When you're talking about how reliable the networks are, which is what
Yeah,
most of the headlines that were drawn from this study were about. Another one was how safe you feel at the location. It's also important, but has nothing to do with charger reliability.
that
Yeah,
seems less than a good thing to look at because we're talking about putting EV charging in low income and underserved neighborhoods, and you're going to come up with something like that. That seems
yeah. So
inappropriate.
yeah, so here are the 10 factors that JD Power looked at for their latest US charging reliability study. This looked at level 2 and DC fast chargers, okay? Here are the 10 factors. I think it's important that we all talk about this. Ease of charging, speed of charging, cost of charging, ease of payment, ease of finding the location, convenience of charging. I'm sorry, convenience of the location. Things to do, how safe you feel, availability of chargers, and physical condition of the chargers. That's what they measured it on. So when you say that Tesla scored 739 and Electrify America scored 614, those values are based on all 10 of those factors, not just if the chargers worked or not.
And when you say things to do, is that around the station?
Yeah, that's what it says. It
or
says things to
all,
do.
because you can sit in your Tesla and watch
Yeah.
Netflix, right? I mean,
A great
is that
point.
does that count as things to do, or are they
No,
talking
around the
okay,
station, but that's a great point. Yes, no, it's just around the station. So, yeah, I think this study basically makes it look like some of these non-Tesla networks are a little bit better than they actually are. From what I've heard, ChargePoint has pretty good reliability. I'd like to see that network grow, but when it comes to Electrify America and EVgo, things are not nearly on the same level as Tesla's supercharger network. Speak to anyone who's familiar with the way EVs work in 2022 in the United States, and I think they would agree. EVgo actually scored the worst on this scale, a score of
I've, yeah,
573 out of 1,000.
that doesn't surprise me at all. EVgo is the number one I hear from people who use chargers around that aren't Tesla. Of just don't go there, like
Wow.
avoid them.
See, I only wasn't familiar because here in Virginia and West Virginia, we have 0 EVgo stations. I know they're down in North Carolina, but it's Electrify America, Tesla, and the occasional charge point and Blink level 2 station in my neck of the woods. Uh, Tesla Supercharger Network, it is reigning supreme for sure. Let's see. Do we got any good questions in the chat today? Looks like a lot of people are sympathizing with the struggles I'm having.
Yeah, it's we shouldn't be having these problems, right? Not only is adoption low, but this is building out the network. This is literally the job interview. This is putting your best foot forward, and a 25% failure rate is a failure.
I love it. The people in the chat who are pointing out whenever I froze on the screen, I love it. It was actually a camera issue. It was a camera issue, but yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. Oh man, so I agree with Igor. Igor says, in my world,
Yeah.
a 25% failure rate is called failure. Yeah.
Yep.
Like imagine if 25% of all gas stations were covered with those yellow plastic bags saying they're out of order at all times. That would be a messy, annoying world to be in. Well, that's where we're headed with EV charging right now. I have hope and a bit of belief that things could get better quickly, but we need to keep bringing this to their attention, to the charging network providers' attention, and even to the automakers. Um, I mean, because you're constantly hearing about new announcements with charging network build outs. I know that EVgo and General Motors are just partnering with Flying J and Pilot truck stops to install chargers, not to mention the state charging networks that are being built out beginning in 2023. There's a lot of news out there right now about more charging stations on the way. However, I'm frustrated because I'm not quite convinced yet that they're going to be worth using.
Yeah, not if 25% of them on average aren't working. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah. And
And what the wait times that are going to come with that, as you said. Nobody
yeah,
wants to wait 45 minutes to go and charge their vehicle for 20 minutes. Like
yes.
that's you can't do that.
No, I think Learning Fast has a good point, and this is something I meant to bring up earlier, so we'll talk about it briefly
Mhm.
now, and then we'll move into news. We got some news to share with you guys, including some that came out just a few hours ago that I want to share. More investment in the United States of America. Learning Fast in the chat says the answer is more level 2 chargers at workplaces and in homes. You don't need fast charging all the time. Yeah, but that I agree with you. That's one of the answers. But that leads to a future where people who don't travel are going to be the only ones interested in EVs, and that's already kind of where I point some people when they ask me, "Should I buy an EV?" I say, "Well, if you're not interested in a Tesla, do you travel a lot?" That's what I say at this point because I've experienced this firsthand. And I would not wish some of the charging troubles I've experienced and some others I know have experienced upon anyone. Imagine being stranded in the middle of, I don't know, Nebraska at 11 p.m. with 5% state of charge and you've got nowhere to go, nowhere to charge. That kind of stuff, that's not good for families. You know, it's not good for a business person who has to hurry up and get to their next destination or get back home to their family, among many other scenarios that would be possible out there. So
Well, and
I don't want that to be the future.
I live in a commuter city. You know, a lot of people who live in the Sacramento area work in the Bay Area, so they drive from here to San Francisco, which is about an hour and a half 2-hour trip, depending on traffic. Um, so not having some charging capabilities in a lot of other places cuts that down. And that's the group that we need to switch to EVs the most.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, I agree 100%. Right now, if you have a family of, I don't know, a family of four, you've got some kids in the back seat, I wouldn't really recommend buying anything other than a Tesla just because of the charging struggles, unless you literally don't travel long distances. If you don't,
Yeah.
that's fine. I charge about 80% at home. That's the most affordable way to power your EV. That's the only way to keep it truly affordable when it comes to fuel savings, because public fast charging can get expensive. I've seen
Mhm.
recently, I saw somewhere, I believe in California, where a public fast charging station, not Electrify America, it was some different provider, uh, was charging $1.33 per kilowatt hour.
That was probably one of the city-run ones.
Yeah,
That
that's more expensive than gas.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, that the city public chargers would do that. The city's going to make money.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
know that.
Because
So,
otherwise, this is why there's not chargers everywhere right now, right? One of the reasons why, not the only reason. Because it takes on average, what I've heard, between 5 and 10 years for someone who finances the installation of a fast charger to break even. Um, that's with the current economics as of 2022. But yeah, if the city wants to hurry up and recoup their costs, I guess charging a
yeah.
dollar 33 cents per kilowatt hour would get you there.
It's at the courthouse for all the jurors that have to park and are forced to
Interesting.
charge all day.
Interesting. Quick question I want to address. Yeah, Justice, we'll go for another 15 minutes if that's okay. I know this is a bit of a longer show. Is that all right?
Always good with me.
Got some good stuff to talk about still to come. Geo in the chat says, quick question about incentives. Do you have to live in a certain state to qualify for state incentives or sales tax exemption? Yes, you do. Yes. So you can't go up to New Jersey and qualify for that awesome um, sales tax exemption for EVs unless you are a New Jersey resident. We've got a guide to the best state level EV incentives on joinyaa.com. So you could just search YAA state EV incentives. Uh, yeah, let us know if you got more questions. We'll try to address them. But one thing I
Hey,
wanted.
hold on real fast. I don't get to say this very much. So, when you talk about state level incentives, California wins. Yay.
Yes, California wins state level incentives. Yep, yep. You claim that title. I'll get you a trophy, Justice. Um, it's gonna be a cowbell ingrained with
Yeah.
California wins. Yeah, I wanted to wrap up this whole rant that I've been going on about charging an EV in America sucking by reminding everyone that there's a good chance that the following scenario is where we're headed. With EV incentives being capped at $55,000 for sedans, $80,000 for SUVs, we're going to see the popularity of the few affordable options continue to increase. I know the Nissan Leaf is rumored to be axed for beyond 2023. It's going to be out of here, but let's say you got more and more Nissan Leafs coming into consumers' driveways. You've got the Chevrolet Bolt, Kia Niro EV, Hyundai Kona EV. I'm sure there are others out there that take a lot longer to charge. I'm talking like 45 minutes to an hour to charge. As we see more of these affordable EVs entering American roads, if we continue to have these kinds of charging issues, charging is going to become hell, especially at Electrify America's network and EVgo, because you're going to have to wait for other people to finish charging. And each one of those slower charging cars might take 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even worse, to wrap up their charging session. I think we need to hurry up and get the ball rolling to avoid that very bad scenario for EV adoption in America. That's where I'll leave it
Yeah.
for today.
But can I also say that when Tesla opens up their network, all you slow chargers, stay out of my way. Let me
Yeah.
charge my car. You can wait behind me because I don't want to be waiting at a Tesla supercharger in my Tesla for some slow
Yes.
car to be charging. That's going to be very annoying.
Oh, that's a whole nother show. That'll be a future
Yeah.
show. We're gonna have to look into that possibility because wow, Justice, you just made me think about how Yeah, Tesla owners are gonna have to be waiting for like a Chevy Bolt to charge for an hour and a half. Kyle Connor, I talk about him a lot. That's because he has awesome content at How to Spec Motoring. He just did a charging curve session for the brand new Chevy Bolt. Okay, it's like 2022 model year, and he found that it took an hour and a half to get to 90% from zero. That's a long time. And say you have maybe someone who doesn't know that they should just unplug at like 80 or unplug at 90%, and they want to go like to 95% in the Chevy Bolt. It took them 2 hours to get to 95%. That's the kind of stuff that I would not wish upon anyone. If you travel a lot, don't buy a slow charging EV, or just wait a few more years for better models to enter the market, hopefully affordably. I mean, I don't know, Justice. I'm
Look
frustrated.
for a movie theater that has charging stalls.
Yeah, go watch a
You can
movie.
plug in, go watch a movie, come out, then you're good.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about a little bit of news. You want to share what you found this week, Justice?
Yeah, so my favorite thing this week, because I want to do some good news, is that
Thank
according
you.
to Inside EVs, which we both love, I think, the number of EV models with 300 plus mile range tripled in 2022. So
Wow.
200, 250 is the norm now. Some get 400 to even 500 or more in case of at least one of them. But 300 plus mile range tripled. And it's really across a lot of the automakers. So, I mean, I think that was great. I love to see that. I love to see the longer charge time because, to Learning Fast point, most of us charge at home or, for me in the apartment anyway. We don't really use much fast chargers, but the more range you can get out of these vehicles, the even less important these fast chargers become.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Well, that is that's some good news, right? I mean, that's about as
Yeah,
close as we got to good news. You got any other good news for us today?
I see. Well, I don't know about
I
another
do.
good news.
Let's see.
Oh
I've
yeah,
got
yeah. No, let's go to your good news
okay.
because I don't want to bum it out more.
I've got one good news item that I'll share with everyone. Then we'll drag us all back down with some bad news. Um, Toyota. Toyota had previously announced that they're building a battery plant in North Carolina. Great for the North Carolina economy. I used to live there, and I know Learning Fast in the chat, you live in North Carolina. They had announced that they were building a, let's see, $1.2 billion project, okay, in North Carolina. They've now pumped in an additional $2.5 billion into the project. And they have alluded to the fact that this is, at least in part, due to the Inflation Reduction Act's new battery sourcing requirements for EV buyers to qualify for the new tax credit. So, this is yet another example, breaking news this morning, another example of the Inflation Reduction Act having an impact in the long term, like we're talking post 2025, despite the fact that right now far fewer EVs are going to qualify for incentives. So I still think that's good news because we're seeing $2.5 billion in additional investment going into EV infrastructure in the southeastern US. That's cool.
Yeah, and so that makes what Toyota, Honda, LG, Panasonic, who've all said after this bill was passed that they're going to be putting major amounts of money into getting batteries built in America. The bill is definitely a long-term bill. It's not a right now fix, but it seems to be creating the environment that it intended to.
Yeah, and even Hyundai decided that they're going to speed up to the fullest extent possible the construction of their new plant in Savannah, Georgia, where they will build exclusively EVs, the Ionic 5, Ionic 6, and probably the larger SUV that will come out in a few years. So, yeah, automakers are definitely putting that on their radar. Now, hopefully, they will be just as motivated to get the charging infrastructure fixed. But what other news do you got to share with us? That
Uh,
insurance thing is pretty wild. Do you want to share that one
that's
with us?
that's was going to be what I shared.
What's the name of
Yeah,
that insurance company so I can pull it up for
uh,
the viewers?
AXA.
AXA. Okay, go ahead and tell us
Yeah.
what happened, and I'll share the images with everyone.
Oh, AXA did a story, I assume, to increase their costs on EV insurance, saying that EVs are fire dangers and they can blow up and the batteries blow up and all the stuff that we've heard before, but statistics don't prove out. So they had a video that they put out and with some pictures, and they show this, you know, huge car fire, Tesla, and all that. Well, it turns out that before they did all the video and the photos, they took the batteries out of the car and then lit it on fire with pyrotechnics. And that is how they showed the battery fire, because they could not get the car to catch fire.
Yeah, the car
So
literally had its batteries removed for this battery
yeah,
fire. It was fireworks.
yeah, it's fireworks. I mean, you have a science background, Justin, so I have to ask you, in
Ooh,
science, when you want to prove your point, but you can't make it, do you just fake the result?
no, that's how you get canceled from science.
Yeah, I thought so too. So this was just, it's another one of those things. Yes, VinFast. Well, they're
Yeah,
huge already in California. So
yeah, we can't forget that VinFast is building a big old factory in North Carolina too. Wow, just so much going on. But yeah, that Tesla insurance demonstration in Germany, that
yeah,
is some wild, wild stuff. So I don't know why they did that, but they tried their hardest right here to flip the
yeah.
vehicle and then used pyrotechnics to make it look like that it was on fire. That's an
Which, if any,
expensive demonstration.
yeah, and if anyone knows the Model S, to flip that, you do need a ramp or something like that. The car is extremely hard to flip because of its center of gravity. When Tesla and National Highway Institute did their tests, they couldn't flip it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I'll share a little bit more good news and then we'll call it a day. You mentioned the Honda and the LG partnership. Yeah, $4.4 billion. That's the amount of monies that's being funneled into this new partnership between Honda and their preferred battery supplier, LG Energy Solutions. They're going to build batteries in the United States. It's not quite clear where this will be at, but some of the rumors are that it could be Ohio, could be Indiana. Right now, Honda's Prologue electric crossover SUV is planned to be built by General Motors using the Ultium electric platform. I'm a big fan of the Ultium platform because it's capable of ultra fast charging, similar to my Ioniq 5. But Honda's looking at a future where they're going to have their own architecture battery platform. That's what they call it. And this new factory that they're building with LG Energy Solutions is where they're going to make those batteries. It's supposed to have an expected annual output of 40 gigawatt hours. That's one hell of a gigawatt factory, or a gigafactory, if you ask me. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good news.
that is fantastic news. I love all the shifts. I want to see them come to fruition. We these are automakers, and we've heard sort of lip service before, so I want to see them come to fruition. But if they all do, this is fantastic news. I mean, it's going to be great for the adoption and for the American economy.
Yeah. So I think Friday, I have a goal for Friday's live show. We're gonna have some more good news. Okay. Because yeah, there's
Yeah,
plenty of good stuff to talk about. I may be really, really pissed about charging an EV in America right now since I'm not a Tesla owner, but there's also some good things, some happy news. So Friday, bring the cowbell, Justice, and I'll bring the good news. We'll have a good time. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, Justice. And I'm going to stay on top of this. I'm going to do some more research and see what I can find about what the plans might be to fix charging an EV in America, to fix the whole charging infrastructure problem we have if you don't own a Tesla. And honestly, what you mentioned in the last minutes of the show about how Tesla drivers may soon have to be waiting for a slow Chevy Bolt or Kia Niro, etc., Nissan Leaf to charge. That is like a whole nother dynamic that's kind of got my gears spinning in my head right now. I'm kind of freaking out about that. So,
I I just want to say that my Cybertruck will be able to pull over on top of those vehicles to charge.
yes.
So you better move.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for giving us that advanced warning. But wow, so much more to keep track of, and we'll see what happens in the remainder of 2022. Hoping for the best in 2023. You guys have a beautiful Wednesday, And if you have not yet, please join the YAA community. We have an electric vehicle forum. Justice and I are on there every day. We talk EVs, whether you're an EV nerd like us, or you are just getting into this world and you want to know more about EVs and whether or not they might be right for you. The Electric Vehicle Forum on the YAA community is the place to be. So check us out at joinyaa.com. You guys, I'll see you Friday. Justice, hopefully you'll be there.
I will be here. Always happy to be here.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
having me
much.
today.
Yeah. And just let's see. What's math? 12 minutes. We've got the Ray and Zach show live over at the Ray and Zach channel, the daily news you can use. So be there in 12 minutes. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.